Hi, can you tell us what's your name? Where were you born and how old are you?
I am 28. My name is Rogelio Banuelos, and I was born in Nayarit, Mexico. I have very good memories of my childhood. Um, I, my dad is one of 10 children. My mother is one of 6 children. So I come from very big families. And in Mexico, I had lots of cousins. Uh, and part of what my grandpa, my grandparents and my dad did was ranching, and so I remember loving going to the ranch to just see like new babies, cows, or that were being born. I enjoyed riding horses. I enjoyed going to the river. Uh, Also, like I would do these things mostly on the weekend, and during the week I would go to school. Um, and once I would come back, there was always a big family to receive me. Uh, Part of like what we did as a family was eat together and have conversations, making fun of each other, making jokes, things like that. I have 2 sisters, and my mother was decided to move to the U.S. and she brought my younger sister with her. It took her a while to cross the border. In the meantime, they were living in the city of Tijuana. She noticed that my sister wasn't doing really good, so she sent her back to Nayarit with me and my older sister. Um, my mother was able to cross the border a year before I did, and she brought my younger sister with her first. Then she brought my older sister, and eventually she was able uh, to gather money for her to be able to bring me to the U.S. It was very painful because after my mom left with my younger sister to Tijuana, I stayed with my dad's dad in his house. And when my little sister came back to the state of Nayarit, my abuelo, my grandpa, didn't want our younger sister to live with me or my older sister because he felt that my mom had rejected his initial offering, which was to take care of all of us three. And he was kind of resented the fact that my mom took my little sister with her. So when my younger sister arrived back to Nayarit, she went with my dad. And for me, it was kind of like a process that I didn't enjoy because we were all separated. I wasn't living with either of my parents. My grandparents were really good to me and to my sister, but still every time I would visit my mom's mom, I would be reminded of my mom. And every single time I would see my mom's mom, I would cry. Um, and as far as my sisters would go, I didn't miss them as much as I missed my mom. Like I said, I come from really big families, so my mom had some. I believe like 2 of her sisters were here in the U.S. and my dad, all of my dad's sisters, which are 4, lived in the U.S. One lived in Texas, and 3 of them lived in Southern California, which is where I came. I was 14 years old. Yeah. I believe it was uh, the last year of middle school, or yeah, it was middle school. I went to Costa Mesa High School and to Costa Mesa Middle School, and I transferred to OCC, which is a college right across from my high school. I didn't see learning a new language as a challenge, but eventually I did once I noticed that as I would speak, people would make fun of me that was challenging because my closest cousins would laugh at my accent, and that was painful. But initially, I didn't see learning a new language as something that was difficult. I just saw it as like, I have to do this. And going through I guess my cousins making fun of me kind of like make me slow down the process of me learning a new language, because I didn't want to speak English in front of new people because I would feel that they would make fun of me. I guess other challenges was, I guess, like dealt with sexuality. My sexuality, I'm gay, and I'm still closeted to my family. Many of my friends know this, but back then I was very shy and a very isolated person because I felt that exposing the true me would lead to people rejecting me based on other homophobic comments that they would make once in a while. It has been on and off because of decisions that I have made. I went to college right after finishing high school. I was able to stay 2 years in college, but then after that, I felt pressure to go back to Mexico because of all, I guess because many obstacles had accumulated in my life, that I felt that in order for me to overcome them, I needed to run from them, and I needed to move back to a country which I saw would provide me with an easier lifestyle and a less stressful one. But before going there, uh, one of my half sisters was kidnapped, uh, my dad's daughter, and so I was afraid to go back. But I hadn't enrolled for school, so that meant that I had to wait um, several years before me coming back to school. I finished my general education through the help of a scholarship that allowed me to finish that. My scholarship did cover all of the costs. It covered tuition, and it covered books and all the materials required for me to go. It was supposed to be a scholarship that would cover me for all 4 years that higher education approximately lasts. At that time, I was only a student. My mom helped me by, I guess, providing housing and stuff like that. Yes, I applied for a program in the state of California that allows undocumented students who completed at least 3 years in high school to pay in-state tuition. And so that allowed me to not go bankrupt uh, because of school. Once I decided not to go back, I started working. I I also um, I also became really involved in community organizing, and in my church first, and because I wanted to do something. I didn't just wanted to do nothing. I was involved in church. I was involved in community organizing, advocating for immigrant rights, and working. Through school, I met this organization that does faith-based organizing. The name of this organization is called Orange County Congregational Community Organization. At the time, they were advocating for a pathway to citizenship for all undocumented, I believe the number that they would use was 11 million undocumented Americans, as they would call them. They did many things for that cause. Uh, part of what I did with them was shared my story at multiple churches, including churches that were not my own denomination. I shared my story of being undocumented with people with religious audiences, I guess. From then, I also decided to participate in a pilgrimage for the same cause. We walked from Sacramento to Bakersfield. It took us, I don't remember the exact number of days, but it wasn't about 20 or something days. We walked 200 and I don't remember the exact mileage, but it was from Sacramento to Bakersfield. And along the way, we were met by religious communities, which would allow us to share our stories to raise awareness of the struggles that undocumented people face in the U.S. Following that, I participated in what we call the Fast for Families in Orange County. It was part of a larger religious-based movement or tactic of fasting for immigrant rights. And I fasted 5 days in the city of Fullerton because we wanted Representative Ed Royce to listen to our stories. We wanted him personally to listen to our stories. He never gave us the opportunity to do that. He referred us to his staff, and we also, I guess, like organized different events for people to know that this is happening in the U.S. or that being undocumented is a reality and that they should listen to us and they should, I guess, alleviate the problem somehow. And this is a problem that needs to be addressed not only by politicians and in my case, in the case of the U.S. organization, by religious people, but by every single person in the U.S. I am currently enrolled in California State University of Fullerton, and I am majoring in ethnic studies. I think it was 4 or 3 years. Currently, I'm paying for college through the money I earn because I work. I work in this restaurant, which allows me to make payments for school. It's stressful because almost all the money that I have goes to school, but I believe it's an investment. Currently, I'm not involved in any program at school. I go to different student centers for support. I go to the LGBTQ center, and I also go to a Dreamer center that my school has. But it's mostly for support, for stress, as a stress reliever thing, to be with people who share my own struggles. I love the fact that there were these centers and that I was already the centers that I mentioned earlier that provide support for undocumented and LGBTQ students. And this I had learned because one of my friends was already attending this school. He I guess he directed me to some of the services that I was in need for. I remember I didn't have Microsoft, and I was about to buy it. And he told me that the school students could have access to it, even outside of school. And that was all for free. And so I was lucky enough to have a friend that that's an example, but he also, I guess, helped me navigate school and made it easier for me. I feel there is always a need to help undocumented people in general, not just students, especially in today's reality with a president that is not very friendly to our cause and with constant political threats against our communities. When I was participating in the I guess when I was participating and advocating for for the 11 million undocumented students, I did identify as a dreamer. I believe that that we should like ask little by little for more rights, and that would and at that time I was like, oh, like it isn't my fault that I am here. But eventually I kind of like realized that was in a way blaming my parent when all I should be is grateful to my mother. It is not her fault that she wanted a better life for us. It was the conditions that surrounded her to make whatever decisions she had to make to bring us to the US. And so I kind of like left that identity, and now I identify as an undocumented youth. And I am in no way different than my mother, who wants a better life for myself, and she wanted a better life for hers, or from her generation that wanted a better life for them and for their children. For me, resilience means to persist in spite of obstacles. And the way I apply it in my life is that my goal is, I was talking about this earlier, that my goal is to be happy. And so I'm gonna do that as long as I'm optimistic. I feel that there's always a better tomorrow, and I should seek that better tomorrow. And even though there's challenges, I don't want to die a sad person, and I need to be happy right now and continue so that my happiness is not interrupted. In a way, I feel that I'm not in school because I want to be resilient, but my education in a way, it's an expression of my resilience. I feel that my mother gives me resilience. Her example of being able to come and then bring her 3 children across the border to live with her. She being able to raise 3 children as a single mother. And she being able to pay for rent, to work, and still be there for us. That gives me resilience, her example. I guess she taught me hard work, because this is a person who came, she had her sisters obviously who supported her when she was able to arrive, but she became a manager in the place where she worked, and she worked there for a really long time. So this was a person who was a really hard worker. She also taught me, I guess, like love for her family, because she never left us alone. She could have, I remember in Mexican TV, immigrants were sometimes portrayed as bad, because there were shows that would make the immigrant seem as a person who left and never came back and left the family alone. So my mother kind of like interrupted that type of narrative that they were presenting in Mexico about immigrants. She was a person who saved to be able to reunite with her family in the place where she wanted to be reunited. And so I value her. It is my plan to go back because, but not as I planned it in the past. In the past, I wanted to go back to run away from everything, and right now I want to go back because I want to be able to see my family, and it's not a permanent going back there. It's more of a visit there. But until I am allowed to do that, I cannot do that. And in the meantime, I guess I'm gonna do everything necessary for me to eventually being able to travel to Mexico, whatever I can do to do that. I feel that the greatest need is a need that doesn't involve our government, because that government is intentional about its cause to cause harm to our communities. But I feel that other communities that do have a place of privilege to be able to help should do that. I'm talking about churches, which can serve as places where we can have a platform and in which our story can be heard. I'm talking about churches also like to provide refuge. I'm talking about private citizens in positions of power to be able to in a way conspire for our cause, and just like everyday citizens to be able to have empathy and if necessary provide refuge or support for undocumented students and for undocumented people in general. I had for a while, because of school, because of work, I was not as I kind of became distant from community organizations that advocate for immigrant rights. But it is my intention, once I finish this semester, to organize in my life in a way that allows me to not only work, to not only study, but to keep advocating.